right, guys, so I got my 23 Seadoo Switch, and one thing I noticed right away is we only have one battery on this boat, which is going to be a big issue. It's this tiny little battery, and so I don't want the boat to die when it's parked, not running, and we're listening to music. Here's what I'm talking about. With the engine cover off, you can see we got just this one tiny little battery. I don't know what it is exactly, 18 amp hours or something, very, very small. So there's actually some kits you can buy that are kind of expensive. There is room up here to be able to put an auxiliary battery. There's kind of a location for it to have a box and everything. You can run the wires back. You can do that. You can have a selector switch to switch between the batteries if you want to do that too. You're not supposed to run these things in parallel, at least not without a battery isolator, because they're two different sizes. The battery I'm going to be putting in is going to be 100 amp hours versus this guy being only 18 amp hours. And then I did buy an auxiliary charger that we are going to hook up as well. Yeah, so I got this charger here that'll charge both batteries, and then kind of the plan is to have to run the wire for it right here above where the fuel fill is. Right here we'll have this little connector, so that way we can when the boat's just here at home, I can plug it right in and have both batteries be charging simultaneously. That way they're always topped off. And then this is the battery isolator. So again, it's just ground and then just one battery, the other battery, that's it. So pretty simple. Battery that we got, this is a LiFePO, so it's a lithium battery. I got this thing off Amazon. I basically got all this crap off Amazon. I'll put the link to everything down below. But this battery was pretty inexpensive, had good reviews, and with a 100-watt radio that this thing has, I mean, we could probably run that thing for 12 hours and not kill this battery. So I got some extra wiring. Looks like I ended up going with 6 gauge, which I think will be just fine. It's actually bigger than a lot of the kits that they sell. I think those have like 8 gauge or something. So this should be plenty for what we're doing. Got some connectors and everything, so should be solid. All right, guys, my new battery box came in from Amazon, and this one fits perfectly. It also fits my Group 31 battery. I think this, it's weird because they also call this one a heavy duty large, but yeah, it does say right there, right? Fits 27 and 31 series battery. So you might as well go with the 31 series so you can get a little bit more output. So now that we got that box fitting in there, we can go ahead and put some screws down to get the strap done. And then we got to get this panel off right here. This whole panel to get access backwards into the engine area. So all this is just 4 clips right here. And then this panel actually will separate into 2 pieces, just with clips, and then you can get this whole thing out of our way. Now, for these clips, if you have a tool like this one, makes it easy, but you don't need this. You can just use a flathead screwdriver or a couple, and these things just pop right out pretty simply. Not a whole lot to it. Just make sure you don't lose it. Now the panel should start to come out here. Yeah, you can see it's loose. So now once you get them all snapped, unsnapped, come apart in 2 pieces. And then you can see now, this is gonna go all the way back to where our engine compartment is, and we'll be able to run our wires to the battery. Make it very, very simple. Now for the battery box install, I've seen where some of the couple guys have just taken these little straps, these little plastic straps that cover hold downs that come with your battery. They basically just put them right about here and just take the screws that come with the kit and just go ahead and screw them down. So pretty simple. If you want to get fancy, these are screwed holes right here. I think they're M6 bolts, M6 threads. All these are. So you could, you could make a little aluminum bracket or something if you wanted to, and then bolt that down. But I don't know. I've seen a couple other guys do this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on here, and we'll see how it holds. I mean, if it ever pulls up or something, we'll do something more fancy. But I think this is gonna be fine for now, especially since this large battery box fits really tight in here. So just having that, pushing it down should be enough, I think, to be fine. We'll see. So I got our little tie downs all screwed in, and I just kind of have it mocked up. I just want to get this all aligned, make sure your strap's long enough. We still got some room. So this is all good. And so you can see, it was super simple, just with my little gun right there. I mean, just those little screws just went right in there. Don't do them too tight because you'll just strip it out and then you won't have anything pushing down. So very simple. Also make sure when you do this, like put your strap underneath first. There's not a lot of room underneath the plastic and like the bottom. So really hard to do if it's not already there, you know, when you get it tightened down. But so cool. So this part's done. Now we can, we'll get the battery in. We can start feeding some cables, which will go through that little hole right there. Right, to come down from the battery under here, and then we'll loop everything around, start getting cables made, and we also got to figure out where we're going to mount our battery isolator, which I watched some other videos, and some of the guys were mounting those right here. So next to our main battery, you can see these kind of little push outs right here. So a lot of the guys were putting it right there. Maybe what I'll do with my Noco battery chargers, maybe I can put it right next to that here. So basically to get access to this, I'll have to just pop my seat out, and then we're going to take off this panel, which I guess there's like 4 10mm bolts, and then that panel comes off, and then we'll have access to behind here so we can drill it and screw it down and all that good stuff. Then what I'm thinking, we're going to have to put in our power wire that I want to go over on this side, right above where the gas tank is on this console. So apparently there's kind of an easy little access panel right here, and I already kind of popped it back having a look earlier. So that'll give us access to drill that hole, and then there's already a hole here for wiring to go through. And so one of the guys' videos, what he did was he took off the seat and this panel, and I think that gave him access to be able to go this way to get that cable back through. So we'll probably have to do that too. Same thing, it's gonna be 4 10mm bolts, and apparently 2 T30 Torx bits on this seat right here, only on this side. Apparently you don't have to take off the back bolts, and then the seat will just stay with that panel, and you can just move the whole thing out of the way. All right, coming over to the wiring. So I ended up picking up 10 feet of red and 10 feet of black. Wiring, 6 gauge. 6 gauge for that, and then I got a bunch of 5/16 little connectors with some heat shrink tubing. So I do already have a crimp tool. If you don't have a crimp tool to crimp these, you're going to want to probably get one of those. You can get one off Amazon. Actually, I'll put the link below because I know it's probably already in my little Amazon store thing because I had to buy it for the death cart. All right, so I found my little clamper, whatever the hell this thing's called, to tighten down the stuff. So again, this is off Amazon, but you can see it's adjustable. You can change this little center part. You just spin each side, and it's adjustable from 6 gauge, 8 gauge, 1 gauge, right? All this stuff. So it's a pretty cool little tool. Had this now for a few years. It's probably 30 or 40 bucks. But yeah, it might be cool to have if you're ever doing stuff like this. Or there might be some cheaper options too, but you can just check around on Amazon, see what they got. So I think before I get ahead of myself and start putting, crimp connectors on the end of this thing, I'm going to put this in the boat. Just make sure 10 feet is going to be long enough. I hope it's overkill, but you never know. All right, so good news, 10 feet, definitely overkill. So you can see I've got the wire, ran all the way back here to the battery. And if you come up here to the front, you can see we've got enough extra to wrap, all the way around the battery and come back, right? So if we screw some stuff up, we certainly got plenty of extra by several feet, which is good. I'm gonna throw some ends onto this side. We can get that connected and then kind of like mock it up and then just find out kind of where we need to cut it. I think the way this works, the ground wire can just go right to the ground of the other battery. And then the power wire is what we're gonna bring over, and then we're gonna have to have that go to the battery isolator. And then I think the other side of the isolator is then what goes to the positive. Yeah, so, and then this little guy right here, we can just connect him to that battery, the starting battery over there too. So should be pretty simple. All right, so for putting these little cable ends together, I didn't have a wire stripper big enough for this. So I just took a razor blade and just kind of went around it, pulled the sheathing off. And then, I had whatever, 3/4 of an inch of wire sticking out. And then you just put your little guy over it and use your 6 gauge little crimper here and just crimp it down. And then when you do that too, make sure you've got your shrink tubing, and we'll take a lighter and just get that all down so that it's all waterproof and good to go. All right, so I threw in my negative cable. I'm gonna do this one first because it should be easier. So I just kind of have it, bolted on there, have it run through this little hole, and then just kind of back here all the way through to the back. And then kind of my plan is maybe I can zip tie it right here and then just have it come from this side right to here. So I took a little piece of electrical tape, put it on there so I know where to cut it. And I'm gonna go ahead and create the, we'll get that one all crimped up. Another thing to mention is I did buy some foam off Amazon. So this is just some, I don't know, some kind of foam. I saw a couple other guys did the same thing when they were doing their batteries, just to help prevent, you know, vibration and all that stuff. So this is almost like a perfect fit. It's a little bit short that way, but close enough, and just a little bit too wide. So I'm just going to trim this with some scissors, put that on the bottom, and then we'll cut this other piece kind of in half just to have it on the sides. And that way should be a pretty good fit. So the battery is very tight, you know, front to back. So that way side to side, hopefully just keeps it all from vibrating too much and don't have any issues. There we go. Piece in the bottom, piece on each side, just something like that. And that should be all we need to do. All right, so now I'm taking off this panel right here. And so there's just these clips at the corner. They just pop up with a screwdriver. Very simple, no tools. And then you've got 10 millimeters all the way around. So not much torque holding on. Then this thing should just kind of come right off here. So with this panel removed, you can see the reason we removed it. Now we have access to the back side of here. And so we can go ahead and mount all of our crap basically right here. And then we should be good. I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this panel out of here. I kind of want to see, once this is open here, I think we're going to mount the plug for our shore power, kind of something like right there. Kind of, you know, right here, right behind where we fill the gas tank. And then I think the cord can drop down either this hole or this hole. So that's kind of why I want to see where we can get access. I'm kind of trying to figure out if I'll have enough length of wire to maybe even put the battery charger kind of right in this spot. And then if there's enough room, maybe the one wire comes down here, charges this battery, and then the other wire, if there's enough room, would go across here to that one. So that's kind of what I'm just trying to figure out. All right, so for this dude, I ended up putting my hole right here. So it's kind of like right behind this. The reason why is you can see where there's a line where this is flat. So I wanted it to be on that. And then on the inside, you've kind of got like this double layer here. So I wanted it to also be below that so we can get access and stuff. So that's about right where you can put it. So so this one's what, a NOCO? Yes, this is a NOCO. There's other off-brand ones too. So this one called for a 2-inch hole saw. So now we should be able to slide this thing in and get that mounted up. And it does come with 3 nice little self-tappers. Looks like they're kind of a black stainless steel, so should be sweet. All right, check it out. So go to fill up. You can also charge up, baby. Pop that thing off, plug in, and keep your batteries always topped off. So now coming back to this charger. So as you can see, this thing is big and it's freaking heavy too. So I was trying to mess around. I took this extra panel off here, trying to figure out if I want to mount it, you know, somewhere inside right here, but it's kind of a pain because it's bigger than like these little cutouts here, and I'd have to deal with mounting it. And if I mounted it here, there was like just enough cable to get it over to this battery, but not much extra. So then I decided, you know what, you can actually get cable extensions. So you can just buy the SAE to SAE extenders on Amazon from 1.5 feet to 12 feet. So I think that's what I'll do, is just buy an extender. Then I don't have to worry about where this thing's mounted. And I think what I'm gonna do, I saw another dude on YouTube in his video where he just placed his right here and just put some Velcro, you know, sticky Velcro, put some Velcro on the back, and then we'll be able to just Velcro this thing right to the ground right here. And that'll be nice and convenient. You know, if you ever need to open this panel up, it takes a second. You know, if we need to change the battery or something, which I doubt we do, but it'll just make it simple. And then all we got to do is just run the 2 cords for the batteries down through the hole. And then if we need to get some extensions for both, that's fine. I can even tackle that later, but at least it won't hold us up to keep progressing. So we'll just kind of stick this thing in here for now. I still got to get off the seat, and then we can kind of get the wires ran through and then kind of see how much extra we might need. All right, for this battery isolator, I went ahead, I put on this little connection for the ground. So this came with it, it just wasn't attached. So did that. I had some heat shrink tubing laying around, I heat shrunk it. So I already kind of mocked it up, and I know that this length of wire should be fine. Now I am gonna bolt it to kind of where the stock battery is. And so I ended up going through my toolbox and I found some M5 bolts. These are M5 by 35 millimeters long, and they're perfect. They fit right through. And then I had some nuts that'll go on. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a little drill bit, kind of get this thing mocked up. Where we're gonna have it live, probably just kind of right above the battery, somewhere right there. We still gotta run the cables for the battery tender through, and I still gotta get this out of the way, but we're gonna do this first. All right, so I got those holes drilled, and I found it easier to just drill from this outside, outside in, rather than trying to get your drill all up in there. So just kind of put this in place for my template, a little backing plate, and then got that all in there. So that should be cool. All right, so here's our location. So it's not permanently mounted. I just got to kind of sit in there. But you can see, I didn't even have to cut this wire. This is the wire length they gave us for this little ground. So we'll be able to ground that right there, have plenty of room, and be cool. And then, able to see this thing. So I have it, if you're wondering why it's turned sideways, it's because this ground is on the bottom, and then that way there's actually holes here on the sides. And so I just thought it'd be better to have the wires kind of come out down rather than like, one or both coming out the sides of this thing. Just makes more sense. So plus it's not like we really need to look at this too much anyway. To give you guys an idea of wire length, so the positive cable that's coming off of the isolator is about 31 inches when I measured it end to end. My positive cable from the auxiliary battery all the way up front to the isolator is about 91 inches end to end. And my negative cable running from the auxiliary battery in parallel to the main starting battery is 84 inches end to end. All right, so I got kind of my harness started to get run here, and I started zip tying everything just to keep it together. Got it pulled through on this side. So now we can start hooking up the positives over to this battery isolator. So the instructions weren't super great with this thing, just because they didn't tell us in the instructions like what the red one is. Should it be the starting battery or the house battery? I looked around online. It looked like the red is for the starting battery. So we're gonna hook up the red cable to our starting battery here. All right, so with this isolator, one thing I did was this black wire, there wasn't really room for it to go next to here. I didn't want like the positive to like eventually cut this thing. So I just took my razor knife and I just cut a little notch out here right next to it. So that way this wire has its own happy little spot that it can live in. And this is a 13 millimeter to tighten these down. So those things are all tight. Now we can go ahead and try to get this thing bolted up in place. One thing to keep in mind too is since we're adding a bunch of extra terminals to the battery cables, you may need to get some longer bolts. So I just had an issue I was trying to put on the ground, and the stock bolt's just a little bit too short. Went through my drawer, and luckily I did have a slightly longer bolt, maybe an 1/8 of an inch longer. So this is an M6 by 16 millimeter, and I think this should work. It's got an 8 millimeter head. I wish it had a 10 millimeter head, but I've got a little toolkit on board, so this will be just fine. All right, guys, so I got everything kind of finally mounted. So this guy's mounted up here. We've got both batteries. So it's showing 13.3. I think that's just because that back battery is like fully charged, and it's the 100 amp hour. So that should go down, because at first when I had just this battery connected, it was showing, what you'd normally see, 12.6. But then when I connected the other one, then it jumped it up. So, so that should go down. And yeah, so basically we got all the stuff connected with the longer bolts. Those worked out great. Did them for both positive and negative. And then I've got the battery tender stuff just kind of ready to go, right? So we may need to get the extension piece. We'll have to get that figured out next. But on both batteries, it is all connected and ready to rock. So here's kind of the final look at the new auxiliary battery. So I think for this one, same thing. It's all hooked up with the battery tender. I can go ahead and put the cover on, get this cleaned up, and then I just got to wait on, until we can put all this back. We need to figure out where all this wiring and stuff's going to route for the battery tender. All right, here it is with the cover on. So this thing's all tightened down. It's pretty freaking tight, all good. And we got our connector, blah, blah, blah. So, man, making some good progress. All right, I've gone ahead, I removed this seat. Again, super simple, T30 Torx bit only on the front bolts, and then the normal 4 10 millimeters, and it just pops right off. And then you can see, it does give us access, because it kind of goes through to under where our wires are gonna drop down. inside of this, whatever the heck this thing is. So wires will drop down for the battery tender, and then we can go ahead and we'll cut the zip tie off this factory grommet, and then we'll be able to run that wiring through here. And then from there, basically, you know, one of them's gonna go kind of across the motor, probably hide it up top or something, right to the battery. So that one's maybe gonna be long enough. We don't have to use an extension, I'm hoping, we'll find out. But then the other one's gonna drop, come through the same hole, and then we're gonna go this way. And so when I was looking at this, I think what we can do is just like how we're running our power cables on this side of the fuel tank, we'll just go ahead and run this wire up through here, and same thing, down, and then just connect it up right through there. So I think that'll be great, should be fine. So I'm guessing we probably will definitely need an extension here, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the wires all dropped through, and then we'll see what we got. So I went ahead, I ran the wires just right through this hole, same as where this other factory wiring's going. And then coming down here on this side, you can see where it's dropped down. So now we're just gonna grab it, pull it on through, and then get it through there. So once you get your zip tie cut off this grommet, push the grommet forward this way, it'll pop right out. It's already got a cut down it, so makes it super simple to route some wires, and then we'll push it back through, re-zip tie it, and we'll be good to go. All right, here we go, final product. Got this thing all back together, zip tied it up there, zip tied the harness a bit just to try to keep it off everything. Looks pretty good. And we've still got, I don't know, a couple feet hanging out. Yeah, maybe about 2 feet, 18 inches, something like that. So now I'll just need to kind of get a measurement. Obviously there's not a whole lot. You only need a couple feet probably. But I do want to have some extra so that we can make sure you know, I can route it, kind of have it out of the way so it looks clean, all that good stuff. All right, so here it is, fresh from Amazon. We got some outdoor Velcro, supposed to be extreme. So we'll see. And then these are our two 12 feet long little SAE to SAE adapters. So I'll put the link for all this stuff down below, but stuff was pretty cheap, maybe 12 bucks for both of these. And this was like 5 bucks. All right, guys, now what I did is I took the wires, so I went ahead and, you know, cut the grommet, just like we did last time. Ran the new wires all the way through. Routed one coming down this way, and I just kind of have a zip tied there, and then it's just kind of hanging down to the ground. Kind of just how our battery cables are on the other side. And then it just comes right through. And then it comes in through here, and then I've got my connection right in here, so I can easily, even once this cover's back on, I can still unclip it and undo it if I need to, so that's all cool. And then this one actually just came right along here. I was able to take some zip ties and attach it to the existing zip ties that are all along here, and then it's just kind of cleanly routed right behind all that wiring. What I also did, I made sure I gave myself a bunch of slack. So you can see how much slack I have up here to be able to take this thing out and mess with it if I need to. But otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of coil that stuff up and you know, just leave it there. So now we just got to get the Velcro on the back of this thing. All right, so I took my extension cord and popped a little plug. We got our shore power connection hooked up, and you can see we got power. Bad boy's working. Now I already set it previously to LiPo, lithium battery, so it's already set up. So we know it's working, charging. Looks like they're fully charged, which is what we thought. But so anyway, now it's cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw on the Velcro, and then we'll wrap this baby up. Here's my Velcro all installed. Super sticky stuff. So now I'm just gonna take it, get it all oriented, flip it around, stick it down, and then we'll kind of tuck all these wires and stuff out of the way. Here we are, all installed. So she is stuck down there, and yeah, wiring all looks good. It's pretty tucked out of the way and everything. So now we just pop her cover back on. There we go, all back together. Now for your front storage, don't forget to put your panels back in, make sure they're all clipped, and then put your 4 little push pins back down up in there. You still got some room for, you know, some rope, first aid kit stuff, some bumpers, you know, so yeah, not bad. Now for all this work, you might be wondering, well, how much did you freaking spend doing all this yourself? Well, the answer is for everything. The battery box, the wiring, the battery charger, the 125 volt port plug, all the stuff that we got in this video, it was $333.48. That's without taxes. Taxes will be on top of that. So That includes the battery, you know, the 100 amp hour battery, all that stuff. I put the link in the description down below. It'll link you to the Amazon store, but it has all that different stuff that I bought, that I purchased, and so you can check it out for yourself. So I think it's a pretty good deal. Some of the kits and stuff were like $250 alone, and then I think those made it so that you couldn't even use your stock battery, so you were just using your new 100 amp hour, or maybe the one came with a switch. You know, but you still had to buy a battery. So I think all in all, we've got a much better setup that includes also the battery charger, right? So you're definitely saving, I'd say, at least $100-ish bucks doing it yourself if it's worth your time. And hopefully this video makes it easy, because now you know kind of all the different parts you need, the links, the wires, and all that good stuff. All right, guys, that is it. We got it all finished, worked out great. Now, again, you could buy a kit, and it would be probably a little bit easier. You're going to spend a little bit more money, but if you got the tools, the knowledge, and the time, then you can definitely do it yourself. Hope this video helps you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.